What's up, everybody? This is Kyle Thumb. This is Solar Growth number 22. So, for those of you, I got a ton of feedback that episode 21 was awesome, that you guys all loved it. Donnie was such a good, energetic guy. One of the people that we brought up in that conversation was Shams. So, Shams is she's a solar professional. She's door knocking in Texas, and she's absolutely crushing it. And she does attribute a lot of her success to the things that Donnie has taught her. But I had an awesome conversation, and I also wanted to apologize to her because we filmed this like an entire week ago, and it took me a while to kind of get things together and have time to publish it because a lot of busy stuff going on. So without any further ado, this is Solar Growth number 22, talking about sales, talking about door knocking, talking about what brought her to the solar industry, and also talking about why she's able to find success and all that stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy. Hey everybody, Kyle here, Solar Growth number 23, I believe. Today I'm talking with Shams. Shams, thank you so much for joining us. Can you give us a little introduction?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Shaw here in Central Texas. I sell solar for power right now. Yeah, that's pretty much a little bit about me.
Very cool. Well, I mean, that's obviously the reason I invited you on because actually we talked about you on the last one with Donnie, and I'm extremely excited to hear about your perspective because it sounds like you've kind of mastered the whole door knocking thing in like the span of 8 months, and obviously the solar industry as well. So you're in the solar industry now, but before we get into that, I do want to talk about fitness. So you're from the fitness industry, is that correct?
So I started like my first job ever, like after graduating high school, was at Planet Fitness, uh,
Mm-hmm.
at front desk, and then I got really interested in like helping people. Um, I would always like take the classes with a trainer, so I started to work towards that, like getting my personal fitness certificate and all. So I started doing that. When I first started doing that, I actually lost my work permit. I'm not from here. I'm originally from Egypt. Only moved here about like 5, 6 years ago in 2014, December. So I have lost my work permit around that time. So I got like a little job at the mall that is just gonna pay me cash because I lost my work permit and only spent there like maybe like 2 weeks. And then for the whole 2 weeks, kept like prospecting this lady, this guy. Um, to like come and buy jewelry from me. Well, it turns out they're like the manager and assistant manager for this like really big jewelry store at the mall. And then they recruited me to start working there. And then that was all in Colorado because I moved to Colorado. And then why I moved to Texas is I got transferred from the store in Colorado to the one in Texas. And how I got into solar is again, I prospected this guy that turns out to be an owner of this solar company. Sold jewelry, told me all about solar. Started selling in June actually last year.
Mm-hmm.
Till like the whole pandemic happened this year, and that's when I like joined Power.
Yeah, that's very cool. So I mean, it sounds like you've always kind of been a hustler, and I think the people that, and I mean hustler in a good way. I know there's some bad ways to say, it, but that people that encounter you, they must think you're good at what you do, and that's why they obviously want to bring you onto your team. And I think that's probably why you were kind of able to learn door knocking as fast as you did. So let me ask you, when was the first time you knocked your first door?
So before I reached out to Donnie at the old company, how I used to get leads is like from Chambers events and solar review. And then I would every time I would like go and do a proposal to someone, they would say like they have been door knocked. So I said, okay, well, like let me try how it is. I tried and I failed because I was just like, I mean, I jumped into something like I didn't even know what to say. I started a conversation at the door. I was super scared, and I actually started it with the sales manager at the old solar company, the prior solar company. So, and then we stopped just because like it did not like work out because I didn't know like what I was doing. I didn't have a
Well,
pitch.
it sounds like they didn't give you any training, or they kind of expected you to teach yourself? And obviously, there's it's going to be a rough road if that's the case. I mean, because it's a rough road even when you have that guidance, and I'm sure we'll get into that. And then so then you started you talked to Donnie, and
Yeah.
how did that come about?
Yeah, so when I joined Power, that's when I reached out to Donnie because I had like already like provided leads with my prior company, and then now like it's all Gen. So I reached out to Donnie, and I reached out to I'm probably gonna butcher his name, Earl Capulli. Is that?
He was on my podcast, and I remember I said it right when I interviewed him, and I don't remember how to say it properly, or I
Yeah.
don't want to risk it. So yeah, that's right. Sure.
And they're
Sorry.
like two completely like different people. Like Donnie is like right here, he's excited, like super like his voice like loud and all, and then Earl's like this, like right
Yeah.
here.
He's
Super
definitely more
calm.
like introspective. Like
Yeah,
you
he's like
you talk to
super.
him and you're not 100% sure you know what he's thinking, where Donnie's like, if he's thinking it, he's saying it.
Yeah, and then Donnie was like, oh, this and this and this and that, and then Earl's like, oh, like he's like so peaceful and like so calm. So like I looked at like to like talk to two people, and Earl helped me a lot, Donnie helped me a lot, and it was really actually like three months ago. That's when I started door knocking like hardcore basically. Um,
Awesome. And I know it's going well because you're at least especially during the end of the little competition that Power had, which I heard you had the most like solo deals. Is that correct?
um, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, somebody said I'm not sure who it was, but had like the most like non-mentor deals or whatever. But I know that you crushed it because you were posting deals left and right there for a while. And I even saw that you were talking a little bit of smack or joking around with Jonathan Brunasso, who's the guy who ended up winning it. But obviously, he was doing more of the mentor and the coaching side. So 3 months. What was the how quickly did you learn, or like what was the most important thing that you learned over the course of that 3 months?
Honestly, like the most important thing it was like consistency. Like you can't do it for one,
Oh,
expect to get like five bills. Like you are gonna like um go through like this day that you're not gonna get any bills, and then like maybe the next day you're gonna get like five bills. So you definitely have to be consistent. You definitely has to have like the right mindset. Because that's where it starts. Because if you don't have like the mindset for it, it's not gonna like work out for you. You're just like wasting like your time. And then definitely like put in the hours. Because when I did work 20 hours, 15, 20 hours like door knocking, I got like a bill or two, a deal or two. And then I like sat down with myself and I was like, this is like my full-time job. So I want to see what would happen if I put 40 hours, 50 hours into this. And that's when I start posting all of those deals. So
yeah, no, I respect it. I always saw that, especially because with everything that's going on, there's a million reasons not to knock doors. And I think a lot of people are sitting back, and I admire the people that are still going out there and getting it. And obviously, like I said, you said you're doing really great. What has been your experience? Was there anything, were you ever concerned? I feel like the majority of door knockers that come to my door are usually men, and obviously you're a woman. How do you feel like that played into your role? How do you think it affected your pitch? Like, what was? Did you notice that there was anything different compared to what you might see somebody else doing?
um not really. I do want to give like a huge like mention Martin Spears. He was my manager at Allegiance. He's the one who brought me into Power. He actually cold called Edgardo. We're during the pandemic, we were at Allegiance. We're like, okay, well, like we depend on this, and then we go to people's homes. Like, let's try cold calling, and we were cold calling people, and he actually just happened to cold call Edgardo. Crazy.
That's funny. I can't
Yeah,
believe that.
yeah, he called Edgardo. Edgardo went through the whole like spill with him. A week later, Martin was like, "Hey, Shaw, I want to meet with you, like tell you about like this new thing." And then he told me that's when I like joined Power. And then I always door knock with Martin. I don't door knock by myself. I'm always door knock with Martin. We split streets. And it is because like I'm a girl, and like you never know.
Well, I mean, I think it's, I mean, it's just, it's a, it's a scary world out there, and I don't mean to like discourage anyone, but it's just that is good. Like I think everybody should knock with a partner because you never know what might happen or what like what kind of situation, like even with a situation where if you're in a position to defend yourself, like it's always better to have people around you, people that are on your side, and just not putting yourself in a place where something could go wrong. And so it's super important. Like even completely different, but as a parent, like we're talking about that a lot. My wife and my son go places, and my wife's always afraid. Like I go to the grocery store with my wife just so that they're more comfortable, because there's been a lot of stories in the news recently about women and children like abducted or attacked, and it's horrible, obviously. And but I do think that's important. And have you what advice would you give to women who maybe look at solar and they don't think they just see a bunch of men and they think it's a boys club? Like what would your advice be to women who might be interested?
Um, it's definitely not the boys club. Like, go out there and like kill it because I'm doing it, and I know a couple of people that are doing it. I think like not just for women, for most people, door knocking is scary. Just because like you're knocking like a stranger door, and then what a lot of people like see as struggling is like getting no's. I love no's because I know if I'm gonna get 10 no's, I'm about to get like a yes. So I love no's.
Exactly. Go for No. It's a good book,
Yeah,
100% for anyone.
most people, and especially women, take no as being rejected personally, but it's really not big of a deal. Like take a no as like you're being rejected as a person or like person, but it's not a big deal. Just like go. Whenever I get like a no or someone like cussed me out or something, sometimes I'm just like, okay, next, like next door, like what happened to the next door? So just go out there.
Embrace it. You got to love it. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is like whatever you want, it's on the other side of no. And
Yeah.
every time you get a no, you're just one little step closer. And that goes back to what you're talking about, which is persistence and consistency, which especially on the doors is huge because there's not a single person out there that can knock any door and get the person. Well, I don't want to say there's no one out there. There's some people that are really, really good. But getting no is part of the process and you have to learn to love that. So did you do any cold calling or was that specifically Martin?
No, we both did cold calling. Actually, how we used to get our leads, it's not just like solar exclusive. We did Mojo calling and we got a couple like Mojo call dialer. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It just calls like random numbers and then whoever picks up first, then you get to talk to that person. We did that. We did solar exclusive events. Yeah, me and Martin both like did that.
Very cool. Yeah, it's something though that I think is important for people because a lot of people, especially when they're new to the industry, they always look at all these other methods that are easier. And like I'm an online marketing guy, I see it all the time. People that want online leads, they basically want you to like find a close and like set it in their lap. And yet the best return on investment is door knocking because it's completely free. All it costs is your time. You can develop that skill, and it's something that can feed you for if you get really good at it. You work a few hours, it can feed you for a week. And it's such a great thing. And I think anyone who's in the solar space or any space really should take advantage of going out and door knocking. I do the same. I used to do the same thing when I worked for when I did like more small businesses and I was building websites, and I just walk into places and talk to the people, and it's not fun, but it is I think probably the best use of anyone's time, especially if you're strapped for cash.
Yeah, you can like for me and Martin, like because we usually take Sundays off. Like people are like, oh, Monday, we're excited for Mondays. Like during the pandemic, because I did take some time off, not because like we can't door knock, like to me, because I was like personally like one of those people who did get like scared and terrified of the pandemic. So for the first like month, we just stayed in, we didn't door knock. And we were scared of it. And like honestly, it was the only thing that kept me sane. Like I got kind of like depressed and I told Martin, I was like, screw it, let's just go because like it makes me like sane. So like for the past 2 weeks, I haven't really been able to like door knock because it's like super bad weather here in Texas, like raining and thunder, and I miss door knocking. So like you can make it fun. And for someone who's like just starting out, and I know like you're a marketing guy, I definitely like recommend door knocking because it gets you like more familiar with solar, talking to people. Because if you can't sell the appointment, it's really hard to close a deal. So sell
100%.
first, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
every
it's
time I bring someone on and like tell them about power, all they think about is like, oh, online leads, Zooms. I know this guy, he's closing over Zoom, this and this. I'm like, forget about that guy. You're just now getting into the solar industry. This guy has been doing it for a while. Don't jump into like online leads. It's like best return to investment is like door knocking. Like you put in the time and you're not really like losing like money. Because if you just jump in like straight to online leads, you don't know what you're doing. You're spending $4,000. You're getting maybe 300 and good leads that could have been closed, but because you don't have the experience, you can't close the appointment, set the appointment. You're not going to be able to close the sale or the.
yeah, 100%. It's actually something that I tell people as well. Is I've recently actually I've turned a lot of people away that it's like, okay, well you're in solar, right? They're like, oh yeah, and then I ask them like, oh okay, I ask them like basic questions like, what's the best offer, like what, how do you guys like what is the best cash back that you currently have, or like what is the local power companies, like what are the policies, and then they like, oh I really don't know, and then I ask them, oh well, have you actually like sold yet, and they're like, oh no I just started, and I was like, oh well honestly online marketing is not the best option. I mean it may work for some, but for the most part I mean it's a rocky road, just like door knocking is a rocky road. But the problem is that when it's a rocky road on that side, it costs you a lot of money. And that's obviously not good. You're in Texas. Obviously, you mentioned that you were afraid of the pandemic when it all started. I think almost everybody was. And I think there was a lot of fear that it might be a lot worse than it actually turned out to be. But one of the great things is obviously we're in an industry that's a little bit more flexible to this kind of thing, because what we're selling is helping homeowners to save money and more comfort and all that good stuff. What has been, have you encountered any homeowners that would just turn you away instantly because of the pandemic, or like what is it overall like down there in Texas?
Yeah, so not really. I mean, even before the pandemic, I would always knock and step away from the door just because I don't know who's going to open the door. And then, like, even though me and Martin are knocking together, he's still across from the street. He's probably going to be like few homes down, or I'm a few like houses down. So always knock and step away. I did when the pandemic first started and we went back to door knocking. I did try to wear the mask, but it creeped people out because they see face. They don't know who's knocking on their door. So I just for the first couple of days, and I just started like taking off my mask and just literally have it on like my wrist so they know it's there if they want me to wear it. But not really.
Yeah, I think it's different in every single city, probably even. And I know a few of the people that I were working with, like in March, it was kind of like the same thing you were talking about, where it's like people were kind of uneasy about knocking on doors, but then by April and May, you would knock on a door and people would be like excited to see a person, because a lot of those people weren't able to go to work or go to school, and there's been a lot of you actually even mentioned it. There's been a lot higher rates of depression with a lot of people. I definitely think that door knocking is obviously you want to do it right. You want to be respectful, but there's no reason not to with the current climate that we're in. And obviously you're finding great success. Do you have like what would you say is your kind of ideal client or an ideal customer? Like what is it exactly that you kind of look for? How do you guys look for specific neighborhoods that might be interesting to you?
Yeah. So honestly, there's really like no ideal like client because I thought like when we first started door knocking, we thought, okay, like let's go to this neighborhood. People have like nicer homes. Um, the homes like in Texas, homes are not expensive. So we were looking at like, okay, this is like a $300, $400 home. They have good credit, this and that. Um, and we didn't have that much luck in those neighborhoods as when we had luck in neighborhoods that are homes average from 150 to 200. Um, so yeah, just
What do you think was the reason for that?
um, well, in the 300, 400 homes, we had a lot of declines, which is super weird because you would think that you would have like they would have like better credit. We had a lot of declines. Um, yeah, really not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's always because it's the same thing with marketing where we target specific zip codes, we target specific cities, and there's really like a fine balance where there's some people that number one, you can never judge a book by its cover. You can't assume because they have a nice house that they have good credit, for example. You can't assume that because they have a smaller house on the small side, they don't make a lot of money, or like it's just great to throw those out of the window almost immediately. But one of the things that we have found is there's a good balance because there's also the other side where if you get people that do have really, really nice homes and you pitch them about, oh yeah, well, we can save you $30 a month and $1,000 cash back. They're like, they don't even care enough to listen to you. They're like, they're no, thank you. And they just close the door. So I think finding the right type of people, and also trying to think about what people maybe aren't aware of solar as much as other people that do have that information. Because if they've already heard the pitch, obviously they're still interested. They know about it, but then it's not necessarily a new concept for them, and therefore you're going to have a harder time to kind of create that intrigue right off the bat. What?
And we got a lot here because a lot of solar door knockers don't like do a very good job. Like I to a neighborhood one time and I'm like, why is there's not any home here that has solar? And every time I knock someone, they tell me I'm like the 10th solar person that comes here. So people, yeah.
So what is it that the people that are door knocking for solar and doing it bad, like what is it that they are doing, and how do you approach it differently?
Yeah, so here where I'm at, it's like near a military base. So and Killeen, Central Texas has like the most like highest disabled like vets here. Mm-hmm. So like yesterday, I set up an appointment. He wasn't even a homeowner. I knocked the house and the people were renting, but he was cutting their grass. And I was like, hey, you work with a lot of people who like live in homes. I offer like $1,000 referrals. And then he was like, oh, I don't solar for my house. And I was like, okay, well, great. And he was like, but they told me I don't qualify. And I was like, who told you don't qualify? And he was like, well, I'm a disabled vet, so they told me I don't qualify. So a lot of solar people, once they knock, they hear he's a disabled vet, he doesn't pay any taxes, they tell them, like, you don't qualify. Most of my sales are disabled vets or people who don't pay any taxes. Solar people that get scared because, like, you're not, because of the tax credit, they don't qualify for the tax credit, their payment is always going to be, like, higher. I sell all of my deals without the tax credit. I check off the tax credit and sell that high number. And then just tell, and then like check it again. I'm like, okay, but for the first 18 months, this right here is going to be your payment, is the lower payment. So a lot of people like get scared when they hear like disabled vet, don't pay taxes, lower income, not going to qualify, which is actually when I was reaching out to people before I like talked to Donnie, people in the pitch were telling me, oh, you got to make sure you ask them about their income, got to be like higher than 65 or 50,000. I'm like, why? Because of the tax credit. But we're not selling a tax credit, we're selling solar.
Yeah, no, I think the way you approach it, it's awesome because then the tax credit's like a nice little bonus if they qualify. It's like you're already on board, and guess what? We're able to over the next 36 months save you this much more. And definitely, obviously, you're positioning yourself for success, especially with the tax credits going away in the next couple of years. But that's really interesting. I think there is a lot of solar pros. Everyone wants everything to be easy, and there's a lot of solar pros that just like automatically DQ somebody when they hear what they don't want to hear. Like even I've seen it even with like shading, and then I look at the house, and there's like one or two trees and the trees aren't even an issue. It's just a matter of they didn't even take the time to ask if the person was willing to, number one, trim the tree, or number two, cut the tree down. And definitely you never want to exclude people. You want to make sure that you've kind of gone through all channels, because otherwise you're leaving money on the table. Well, that's really great. So you do kind of have like your own specialty, which is disabled veterans, which is very interesting because I've never spoke with anyone that kind of sells a lot to those people, but it makes sense because they're the ones that are in your area, which is Killeen, which I believe is Austin, correct?
Yeah, it's like an hour away from Austin. Well, I don't live in Killeen, but that's where I've been knocking recently, like in the Central Texas area. But yeah, like it's all like about an hour away from Austin.
Hmm. Very cool. Tell me about your virtual sales, because I know you have sold a few virtually, and a few of the virtual ones you've sold that were actually a result from door knocking, correct?
Yeah, so a couple, well, three of them kept canceling appointments, kept canceling the appointment, and I called this lady and I was like, she was telling me that she's sick, she's wasn't sick or anything, and I was like, oh yeah, you're sick, I can do it over Zoom, jump on right now, in 10 minutes, and then yeah, closed it. The second person, he kept saying that that was a rental actually. I sold it for his rental. So he lives in San Antonio and he didn't want to make the drive for like 2 hours here, but I knocked him because he was remodeling his home when I knocked him. And then I was like, okay, we'll jump over Zoom. And then the third person, it was like his wife was deployed. He was here, wanted to meet with them both, knocked him, but I did it over Zoom.
Okay. Very cool. Would you, if you had to choose one or the other and you could only do one, would you choose in person or virtual?
In person, I love in person.
Okay. So what do you love most about in person?
Yeah, you can like better read people. Like even when I door knock, I'm not just like all I see is not just the door. I'm looking at the license plates. I'm looking if they have an SUV. Okay, they're a big family. A truck. Okay, construction guy maybe. Look at the decor. Um, so and then like when you go in the home, you can like really like look at the home and then like see like if they have any pictures, are they like a family person. I love like mirroring people, like body language and like mirroring them, and it's really hard over Zoom.
Hmm.
And then definitely like face to face is like more like personal, like you can read people better, you can connect with like people better. So yeah, face to face definitely.
Yeah, one of the interesting things is like with a Zoom, you only really see what they want you to see.
Mhm.
And a lot of, and not mention your camera for the most part. Very rarely does anyone have a camera that they're walking around their house with while they're talking to you. And so it's definitely a lot of those little cues that you're able to pick up in the home. And it's just also, I mean, it's just a better way to build rapport, to actually like form a relationship with that person. And I think that's great. So with obviously I'm an online leads guy, I'm a marketing guy. You mentioned solar exclusive, you mentioned I believe another online lead source, I think. What was your experience like with online leads, and what tips would you give anyone for who is making calls to online leads?
Yeah, so I did talk to Solar Exclusive. I did not like sign up with them or anything, and
Okay.
yeah, I did not sign up with them. I talked to Daryl Dexter. I think you know him,
Mhm.
maybe. And then yeah, you. And then I was just because when I was with my prior company, I had a lot of leads that I have to go through, people that I have to talk to get that one perfect like proposal. Like a lot of people rent mobile homes, bad credit, this and that. At the doors, I'm really like picking and choosing. Like if I'm knocking, I look at a roof and it's in a bad shape, I might skip that door. Or if I'm talking to someone and then like they tell me that they have a 500 like credit, then I just follow up with them, give them my card, or like work with a credit guy or something. So I can like kind of pick and choose with online leads. I think like it can be like time consuming because there's a lot of like leads that you have to like filter like through. And I seen couple like uh, pitch that online leads people like send their clients, which is like I saw one that says like, hey, this person like secretary, which is I told the girl like, forget about that, just be direct. They know what they submitted something for solar. Just hey, like I'm here talking to you because you submitted an inquiry about solar. So like just be direct because they're interested. They raised their hands. They were like, oh hey, I'm interested.
Yeah, it's like I always tell people, it's like people treat online leads like they think it's like magical or something, and I tell people it's like a step above door knocking. It really isn't that much. Like at least with majority of online leads, unless you're really getting like all the information that you need and you're filtering through it before you even make your first call. But the majority of online leads is still that same process. But rather than going to a door, you're able to do it from home. But there are also people that it's much like you mentioned. It's much harder to connect with them. It's much harder to build that relationship and make it so that I think door knocking, you're able to build that rapport, which is going to make it more likely that you close, which is obviously harder if you're calling someone over the phone. And I know it's not necessarily cold calling, but especially if you aren't able to get them on the phone with like in the first day, then a lot of people treat it like cold calling. What I mean, the customers treat it like cold calling because they, who is this? I did what? I don't remember doing that. And hopefully, if whoever's setting the appointment has like that training to overcome that.
Yeah, and definitely we used to get that a lot. Like, I had like this rule is if I don't call a person or a lead in 5 minutes, then there's, especially like with like I know it's different with you, but like especially with like solar reviews where a person goes and like something and they got like 8, 10 companies calling them. And then like I usually don't answer like weird numbers. So yeah, I mean, an advice is like call them right when you leave, text them, email them, and call them like 3 times a day, like in the one time in the morning. Because if they work in the evening, then you can catch them in the morning. Well, if they work morning, you can catch them in the evening when they're off. So don't just like, it's not like just one touch or like one contact a day.
Yeah, and that's I think the biggest reason why I've seen people struggle with online leads is they call them once, they leave a voicemail, and they never hear back, and then they tell their online lead guy, "Oh, these leads suck. These ones aren't good leads." Blah blah blah, blah. And it still requires work. You have to be able to put in the work. And what I found interesting was when you were asking around and talking to all these different marketing companies, and you kind of, I'm sure, were doing the mental math and seeing like, why would you spend that much money when you know that you're good at knocking doors? And obviously, if you're comfortable and you enjoy knocking doors, then you're able to definitely keep much more of the profit that way. What is if you could only give someone like one tip, if someone's brand new to solar, they've never sold it, they don't know anything about it, they just joined, maybe they joined under you, like what is the number one tip or the number one resource that you would provide them?
Like to get leads.
Just to find success as a solar professional.
Okay, so if they're like new into sales and like general, and then like just jumping into like solar, my experience in jewelry, what we had is we always have to sell ourselves as a person. So sell yourself as a person, then the company, then the product. The product is the last thing that you sell. If one of those are missing, then you're not gonna get the deal, and that's where you usually get like a lot of like cancellations. Like if they love the company, love the product, but don't like you as a person or don't trust you as a salesperson, then you don't have that deal. If any of those three are missing, then like you don't have that. So just like building rapport with a customer.
Yeah, that's true. Too many people, especially people that are new to sales, always sell the product rather than selling the sizzle, selling the steak rather than the sizzle, so to speak. I see that you have books on your shelf. Is that your bookshelf?
Yeah.
What do you read a lot?
I try to read a lot. I can't really focus on like one thing. I'm always like doing like 10,000 things at the same time. So I try to read. I finished a couple of books. I try to read, but I wake up, usually my routine starts at like 5. If I can't read, I at least have to get like one sentence in. And usually even that one sentence does make like a difference like in my day.
Yeah, it reminds me, there's a book called Atomic Habits, and it's talking about how like the tiniest little habit compounds over time. And I'm a big reader of books, but I'm actually the same way where I read like 5 minutes and then I want to keep reading, but I don't want to keep reading. So I like hop and I have like 10 books I'm reading at once, and it's not very fun. So what type of things do you like to do for fun? Because I think it's important that high performers obviously take times for themselves and take times to do what they enjoy. So obviously you're out knocking doors, you're succeeding, you're selling solar, you're successful, but I'm sure there's also a little stress involved with that. So what is it that you find that is kind of the best use of your time when you have free time?
Yeah, so I hit the gym usually. If the weather is perfect, then I go like paddleboarding or like kayaking. Or sometimes I just like go to lake and just like sit there.
Yeah, because I remember actually when I was talking to Donnie, he was telling me that he was afraid you were going to burn out because you work so hard. But it's good to know that you do take some time to do those things, and they sound fun, especially in Texas where there's some beautiful rivers and lakes down there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, you definitely have to take like some time for yourself. That's why I do work like Monday through Saturday, but like Sundays are like strictly like just like my staying day. Gotta get like myself together. So yeah, you definitely have to take like one day off. You're not a machine.
Yeah, no, nobody, even the people that seem like machines are not machines. And it's one of the things too, especially with social media, is you always see, you see other people's highlights.
Mhm.
So you see someone else when they're working, or that you see you when you're door knocking, you see you when you're closing deals, and you don't see their other habits that they have away from their job, and that's kind of important for some people to realize so that they don't burn out. Because if you burn out, it's not a fun time. It can wreak havoc on obviously your career, but just your life in general.
Funny,
Well,
because I had people that say like, "Oh, you don't turn off." I'm like, I do turn off. I just like not posting when I turn off.
yeah, it's that's a big thing. I remember that was one of the biggest things when I was a fitness manager slash personal trainer, was trying to get my clients that would be on Instagram all day. And they would be seeing these people like talking about their weight loss, and they'd be seeing these people like with their six pack abs, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not there. I'm never going to get there. It's not working." And it's like, you can't compare your everyday life to everybody else's highlights. Like, it's just not a good way. And it goes for business as well. You just can't do that because you don't see the grinding. You don't see the work that they put in, because that isn't something that's really Instagram worthy in a lot of cases. And yeah, social media is weird in that way. And probably one of the biggest things that I can recommend for anybody is just don't compare your daily life to other people's highlights, because that's what you see on social media. No one's talking about, hey, yeah, this morning really sucked. Maybe a few bloggers are, but no one's posting that they knocked 300 doors and they didn't get a single appointment. But they do post when they knock 100 and they get five, and that's just something to keep in mind. Awesome, Shams. Well, I really do appreciate you taking the time. I think that you are an example of how hard work can help you to be successful at almost anything. And I think that your willingness to knock doors and to hone your craft and to put in the work so that you're able to find success is incredibly inspirational. My last question for you is, what are your goals that you have for the next 6 months, the next year, the next 5 years? Like, what type of goals are on your roadmap?
Yeah, so I definitely like want to like completely like kill it with power. Hopefully, well, I will get the next Tesla. So sorry, Jonathan, if you hear this, you're not gonna get another car. And then I definitely just want to start investing. So something that I want to work on pretty soon is like real estate investing.
Very cool. Obviously, taking your rewards and putting them to good use, and once again adding on to that passive income that we all love so much. So once again, Shams, thank you. I look forward to the next contest because I truly do believe that you will win that Tesla. I kind of hope that the next time they do something like that, I want it to be like a Cybertruck or one of those new electric trucks or something. That'd be really cool. But no matter what, I know that you're going to be successful. And if there's anyone listening to this that wanted to reach out to, maybe they wanted to get into selling solar, or maybe they wanted to sell solar with power and learn from you, what would be the best way that they could reach you?
Just my Facebook. Just reach out to me on Facebook. I'm really good at like replying to people.
Which is funny because I'm not. So apologies to everyone who's sitting in my inbox because I have way too many. But with that, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope